Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great day today. Yeah, it's a nice day, breezy out there, not too hot. So, let's jump right in. What is today's class? Well, as the little blurb said, today is kind of a biology slash ecology class. It was a requested class, so thank you for people requesting classes. I really appreciate that. Because it helps. I want everyone to learn about what it is they're interested in, and it helps us get to know each other and what different people are interested in. So today, like I said, it's kind of a biology slash ecology class. So it's the origins of the olive tree. It's a very interesting history, but it says DNA analysis reveals the olive was first domesticated in the Eastern Mediterranean around 8,000 and 6,000 years ago. And domesticated just means that, they were still out there, but really turned into something that was readily available to eat. Like put into, I don't know, if you ever go out to there's different orchards or different, places you can go, like to get almonds and things like that, and you'll see them all put in a row where people can just go through and kind of pick up the almonds, and they make money that way. Well, the same sort of thing. So around 8 to 6,000 years ago, they finally started growing olives for the express purpose of human consumption and happiness. And olives are good. I like green olives myself. I'm coming around to black olives. I never really liked them for the longest time on pizza or anything. And the older I get, the more developed my palate gets. And I'm like, actually, last time I had a piece of pizza, I was like, that was actually a nice little bite. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about olives. So the findings that they were domesticated that long ago, published in the journal Proceedings of the Royal Society B, are based on genetic analysis of nearly 1,900 samples from around the Mediterranean Sea. So it's, Greece, Sicily, like all around the Mediterranean. They have some wonderful Mediterranean food. In fact, if there was going to be a place that I would go just to eat some food, it would be probably the Mediterranean. And the study reveals that domesticated olives, which are larger and juicier than wild varieties, were probably first cultivated from wild olive trees at the frontier between Turkey and Syria. We can say there were probably several steps, and it probably starts in the Levant, or the area that today includes Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. Study co-author Guillaume Bernard, an archaeobotanist, or an archaeobotanist, like an archaeologist, but an archaeobotanist, which is instead of looking at ruins and findings of artwork and things from way past when to figure out where it came from, they use botany, or the study of plants, to do it. So people selected new cultivars everywhere, but that was a secondary diversification later. So anyway, from biblical times, so back when the Bible was finally coming, the olive tree has served as a symbol of sacredness, peace, and unity. You extend to somebody an olive branch, which is a sign of peace. It's a peace offering, things like that. I think I'm not really that big of a biblical scholar, but when it comes to the dove that came with the olive branch with Noah on the ark and everything, and they're like, that means there's land out there, so we're not just flooded anymore. So anyway, little bit of biology, biblical studies that I do. And then archaeologists have unearthed olive pits at sites dating to about 8,000 years old, and dating as far back as 6,000 years ago, archaeologists found evidence of olive oil production in Carmel, Israel, is what Bernard said, the archaeobotanist. Wow, so they were making olive oil, which we cook with readily today. Yet exactly where the olive was first cultivated has been hotly debated. People fighting about it and yelling at each other. I'm just kidding, I don't know. To unravel the history of the olive tree, the team took 1,263 wild and 534 cultivated olive tree samples from throughout the Mediterranean and analyzed genetic material from the tree's chloroplasts, which is kind of like the tree's DNA. The green plant structures where photosynthesis takes place. Because chloroplast DNA is passed from one tree to the descendant trees that spring up around it, the DNA can reveal local changes in plant lineages. The researchers then reconstructed a genetic tree to show how the plant dispersed. The team found that the thin, small, and bitter wild first gave way to oil-rich larger olives on border between Turkey and Syria. Interesting. So after that first cultivation, modern-day domesticated olives came mostly from 3 hotspots. So the Near East, which included Cyprus, the Aegean Sea, and the Strait of Gibraltar. They were then gradually spread throughout the Mediterranean with the rise of civilization. So the more the people, the more food that they want, and especially more good salty food, and especially food that can produce an oil that you can cook with and use for other methods of cooking, for meat and things like that. And the more civilization grows, the more people want to have good food. That's just the truth. Look at around everywhere around here. There's a restaurant or something that you can find with some great food a lot of time here. But to get the true sense of how the olive tree emerged, the researchers shouldn't just look at chloroplast DNA, said André Breville. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's got the little umlauts over the E. A geneticist at the French National Institute for Agricultural Research, who is not involved in the study. Nuclear DNA, which is carried in the pollen, should also be analyzed. I don't know what that is. Nuclear DNA. So guess what? Since I have a phony phone, I would try it on this computer, but I might accidentally lose my screen. Let's see. Nuclear DNA. Oh, DNA. So nuclear DNA is the DNA contained within each cell nucleus of a eukaryotic organism. So the nuclear is it encodes the majority of the genome in eukaryotes with mitochondrial DNA and plasmid DNA coding for the rest. That didn't help me at all. So the nuclear DNA is known as the molecule of life and contains the genetic instructions for the development of all living organisms. So containing the instructions, so basically things kind of tap and say, I don't know how to grow. And then this is what says, like, this is how you do it. These are the instructions and how you do it. And that's kind of how our bodies are set up. Our bodies kind of talk to each other. I mean, if you think about it, just kind of biology in itself for us, when there's a virus in our body, then the body talks and says, hey, we need to produce antibodies to get rid of that. That is not good for us. We want to live, and this thing's messing with that. We don't feel good, so we're going to fight it off. Same thing with nuclear DNA. It has the instructions for how it can grow, how it's going to grow, and that's where it's all, in the nucleus of everything. So nuclear DNA, which is carried in the pollen, should also be analyzed. And what's good about what pollen does is as you start to grow plants in a certain area, cultivate them, what happens is when the pollen spreads, the wind blows it about, then it's going to land in different places. And then within that pollen has that nuclear DNA, which says, okay, we've planted here, we're going to seed here, then we're going to grow here, and this is how we're going to grow. And then you can, and so he's saying we need to test all that pollen to really know. So pollen from the olive tree is wind transported, so it can migrate long distances. Because the wind can. Pollen is very light. It's very small, and so it just carries on with the wind and can be planted everywhere. But you also have to have really good seeds, and you have to have a good arid soil or non-arid soil in order for it to take fruit. So combining both types of DNA would allow researchers to understand both how local olive tree cultivation occurred and how more long-distance changes occurred, he said. So, that is the history of the olive tree. So it's been around for 8,000 to 6,000 years, domesticated around then. So it's been olives have been around for much longer, but they're wonderful on all sorts of things. I just like to eat them straight, just green olive. Yum, yum, yum. I don't like the pimento inside so much, but you can stuff olives with cheese, with peppers, all sorts of stuff. And they're just an amazing, amazing thing to cook with. And then, of course, we get olive oil. But they're actually moving towards, and this will be the last bit, grapeseed oil, which is now becoming more popular. And a lot of chefs say that it's better tasting than olive oil. At least it leaves a nice, kind of a sweeter taste with everything than olive oil does. And olive oil was, of course, for the longest time, like really pure virgin olive oil. It was the bee's knees. Still is, but now they have a new one. Anyway, that has been our ecology biology class today. If you have any questions on it, please ask. I know that was a lot of information. You can always watch this again, but that's where the olive came from. Is in the Mediterranean Sea, all around that area. All right, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Any suggestions for new classes, please, I implore you, let me know. All right. Bye, everybody.